My name is Matthew Cabot, and I've been here for 6 years. And I am the primary public relations professor. Um, I teach a wide variety of PR courses. I teach intro to PR. I teach writing courses, some GE courses as well. And I'm also the person that puts on a media ethics symposium every year. And I also take students to Europe every summer, the last few summers. So I'm going to do it again in a few weeks.
Great.
Yeah.
So let's see. Maybe if you could just tell me some of the core ideas about PR. So how does public relations writing differ from journalistic writing?
Right. So one of the key differences is that when you're a public relations practitioner, you are an advocate for your clients. And in journalism, you're supposed to be objective. So we don't talk about being objective when you're in PR. You really are more like a lawyer for your clients, and you are writing in such a way that is on their best behalf. But it's not, though, to the degree where you're spinning or being dishonest. Maybe it used to be in some sense that, but we live in an age today of radical transparency. And anything like that, any exaggeration, whether it's a product claim or a service claim or what, if you say you do this and it doesn't do that, it's going to be found out. And when a customer tries it out and it doesn't do that, then they have an option to go somewhere else.
Right.
So, but in terms of some of the basic writing of public relations, it still is done more like a journalist. So it's journalistic principles still apply in that way.
Okay. So speaking on the theme of relationships, so how do public relations, what about the relationship between public relations professionals and journalists? How do they forge a good, strong relationship?
That's a great question, because for years and years we've talked about this being maybe friendly adversaries in some sense. I mean, journalists want to get to the truth, and PR people should want to get to the truth too. But sometimes the most dramatic story is not the best story for an organization. So what I tell my clients, and the way I've done media relations for years, is first of all, you want to be an advocate for your media partners. And when you go back to a client and say, a journalist called today, they're looking for a quote, you need to respect a deadline and make sure that you actually get the information that the journalist needs in time to meet that deadline. There's a key principle in public relations that says, never refuse an opportunity to tell your side of the story. Because if you don't tell the story, an angry employee, a competitor is going to tell that story, and you want to have as much control over that story as you can. So I have always had good relationships with the media because, first of all, I don't spin. If I don't know the answer to a question, I say I don't know the answer to the question, but I'll find out the answer. And then I do everything I can to make sure that in a timely fashion that I can get what the journalist needs. For example, if it is a quote from an executive that is not present, let's say our CEO is traveling and she's out of pocket for a few hours. I'll tell a journalist just that our CEO is traveling and she should be landing at this airport at this time. And as soon as she does, I will call her and I'll find out, I'll get the answer to your question. If by that time I still have not been able to do that, if I said I'll call you back in 2 hours, I still call back in 2 hours and say I'm still working on it, to let them know, because you want to develop a track record for doing what you say you're going to do.
Right.
And I think if you just treat journalists with respect and recognize that they're looking for a good story, and if you supply good substantial news and not fluff, if you understand what their needs and goals are, if you understand who their viewers are or readers and what they're looking for and the kinds of stories that they're looking for, you can be a great partner and be a tremendous resource for journalists.
So you talked about them contacting you, but there's also times when PR people have to try to place stories or news about their clients or different companies, right?
Yeah, and
so is that done through? I know there's what do you call them?
News releases.
News releases.
Yes.
But are there other ways that that's done also? How do you
Yeah.
source
So.
out there?
So news releases are done for routine news, and it's one of those things that when you do a news release, you're not sending it to a particular journalism outlet. That's for mass distribution, and ideally you send it to people that cover what you do, and you don't have the wrong contacts. You want to focus on people who cover what you're doing. But the second way is the pitch, and that's when you're going after a particular person. You're saying, you, Mr. and Mrs. Journalist, we have a story that you in particular would appreciate. We know your viewers would appreciate this. We know that your listeners or your readers would appreciate. And we go to them and we say, here's the story, and we're not going out to lots of different outlets. We're going to you in particular because we want to give you this story.
So
And it's a pitch.
You're writing the pitch normally?
Yeah, so it's an email.
Yeah.
So when I've typically pitched, and I've pitched the Wall Street Journal, I've pitched USA Today, I've pitched Good Morning America, and I've got stories in all those places. You go after a person, and I typically would email, and then I would follow up with a phone call. You don't follow up on a news release. In fact, journalists hate that, because if every single PR person followed up on every single news release, it would overwhelm reporters, and that's one of their pet peeves. They hate it when journalists call and say, "Did you get my news release?" So, but the pitch is different, because I'm actually sending them an email personally, and I even say in that email, I will call you in a couple of days to find out if you're interested. And then I call them, and then a lot of times they haven't seen it. So even after I've done the email pitch, I've called them. They say, I haven't seen that, but then you have a personal conversation, and you have to be ready to pitch it to them over the phone. I much prefer to pitch it in writing, because I'm a pretty good writer.
Yeah.
You have to be a little bit more of a salesman if you pitch cold in a call, but it happens all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
So what skills are important then? Is it the way that you pitch a story, or is it your relationship with people?
It's both. Employers, when they hire PR graduates, they're looking first and foremost for graduates who can write. It needs to be, that's still the core skill, to be able to put together a good sentence and write like a journalist and to develop good messages. But they need to also understand how to craft a story that is compelling for a particular media outlet. And that's why it's important, by the way, to be part of a journalism program. There's some movement, and I part of me agrees that we could go in this direction, is to put PR in a business school. And many public relations programs are in business schools, because there may be today more affinity with business than there is with journalism, because writing is only one thing that we do. Media relations is only one thing that we do. And if we think about PR being a business function tied into business and organizational objectives, we really need PR students to know how businesses operate and how to achieve organizational goals.
Right. Do you do more sort of long-term strategic thinking maybe in PR?
Yeah, you do. You do. Everything is tied into goals and objectives, and evaluation and measurement. But we talk a lot in public relations of ROI, return on investment, and clients need to know, especially when dollars get tight. If they invest $100,000 with you in PR, what are they going to get in return? And so today, measurement is a huge part of what we do, to demonstrate our value to companies who say, well, I don't know what PR does, and I'm not sure if I should allocate resources to public relations. And we say, here's why you should, because we can show you a pretty amazing return on that.
And how will you show them? How will you know what that
Well,
return will be?
yeah, so there's all kinds of metrics that are being developed. One of the areas that is today the most, I guess the biggest, the most fruitful area of measurement is in social media. How do you determine, what are you getting for your social media efforts? For example, what is a like worth in Facebook? What is a follower worth in Twitter? how does it translate into sales of your product or loyal customers? So a lot of effort is being done there. Where we know a little bit more about what kind of return people get, we know, for example, if there's an article in a newspaper, that is more valuable than an advertisement, because we talk about the idea of third-party credibility. A third party has looked at your material and has deemed it newsworthy. Unlike advertising, which we know you've paid for, it's paid and controlled, as opposed to PR, which is unpaid and uncontrolled. And because of that reason, we know that the people tend to believe articles more than they would an advertisement. But it is a field that we are getting more sophisticated in. All kinds of computer algorithms that are designed. Yeah.
Don't know yet about social media. What if
No, they really don't. They're looking at it, and they're. I mean, people may, but they're testing things now. You know, we think it does this, and there's some people who claim they can translate social media efforts into real dollars and sales, but it's still a little bit tough to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
One thing I've heard about is something called cause-related marketing.
Yes.
What's that?
So there's a big trend, and I hope it's a continuing trend and not just a fad, is the idea of performance with purpose. It used to be, when we talked about corporate social responsibility, that it would be something like letting your employees out early to go for a walk, you know, the cancer walk or whatever it might be, or donating a few dollars and saying we've done our good. Everything has changed because now customers are expecting that businesses give back. So if you're a Cisco, for example, infrastructure company, they go to a place where they say, okay, this society, this community does not have any kind of an IT infrastructure. Let's put it in for free, because we know today that a lot of education is happening in these developing countries, where through technology, and people are being educated through the Khan Academy. That's it's online, and a smartphone has become the great sort of spanner of the digital divide. But you need an IT infrastructure. You need Wi-Fi. You need computers in order to do that. So an IT company, technology company, might come in and say, we'll give this to you because this is something that we do and we know we can do it. And then someone would say, well, you're giving away money. But the other part of it is you've also created new customers. So there's this idea that you're doing good, it's shared value. What can you do to solve some of the world's problems, and also make money yourselves? I mean, we know that if you're in business, you need to make money. But what we've started to think about is we're looking at capitalism a little bit differently now, and say you can make money and do good at the same time. And some of these cause-related marketing things, if they're done genuinely and they're done sort of organically, in the sense that you're doing stuff that is directly tied into your business, then it makes sense. Some people do stuff, cause-related marketing, and it really has no correlation to what they do in business, and then it seems like an add-on, and that kind of a thing is not sustainable, because at some point people are going to say, we are diverting dollars away from our core business. But if that cause that you're a part of is actually part of your core business, then there's much more the sense that let's just keep doing this, because we are making a profit. People are buying our product more. Our reputation has been boosted, and it's a win-win for everybody.